Fantastic. Thanks, Trevor. And thanks, Zanele. Great to have you back again. As Trevor said, I think we've slotted you in as our professional graveyard shift speaker. Lift the energy again. Bring your excitement, your energy, your verve into the discussion. Remind us all that we're still at nursery school, I think, and how you're actually taking those life lessons and bringing them back into the real world, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And looking forward to listening to you again this afternoon. I really appreciate you being here. So Zanele, on that note, I'm going to hand over to you. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Ivan. And thank you to everyone who's in the room today for welcoming me once again. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and at the last session again today. And I must say before I get started and today is a sort of off the cuff kind of conversation. And that's what I really love about it, is that it's just us having a wisdom conversation. And most people may be going, oh my goodness, well, why do you have this 26-year-old girl in a wisdoms conversation? And I might actually be asking myself that too. But I think that this is such a great platform to have these types of conversation, and listening to BJ, and I'm sure a few of the other speakers that have been speaking today, just sharing such great gems and nuggets around wisdom. And just to sort of lay a bit of groundwork before having sort of pondered on the word wisdom, it's strange because this year specifically has actually been a year that I've specifically set out my biggest goal to be attaining or seeking wisdom. And my understanding, and I'm so open to having a discussion about this, but my understanding of wisdom is that it's not wit, it's not smarts, it's not counting, it's not all of these things that the world seems to deem as so valuable. But wisdom in my eyes is quiet. It's the guy who sits in the corner and listens. It's the person who only speaks when they need to. It's processing and understanding objectively. And that's why I find it so valuable to be wise. And I think that in all of our quests going through life, and this is now seeming a bit philosophical, wisdom really is the biggest gain from what we're doing, from life, from business. And in both perspectives is something that can add so much value to what we do, is to be wise in our approach to what we do, to be wise in how we converse with each other, to be wise in how we handle other people, and we handle situations and our planet and all sorts of things within the business and personal frame. So I'm so excited to have this because I feel like this is my tribe. My mother, actually, funny enough, my name that she calls me, and she's called me this since I was a very, very little girl. She's called me Gogo, which in isiZulu means granny. And the strange thing, she's called me that since I was about 4 or 5, because I've just never really been young, just between you and I. But because there's just always been this excitement towards knowing more and understanding on a much deeper level. So that's where I sort of wanted to start this conversation. And then go into just sharing my story by looking at my 2 highest values. And I've recently actually been undergoing a course on finding out what my biggest values are, and then aligning everything in my life and in my professional space to my values, to my highest values. And I must say that this is an idea that I would strongly encourage all of us to do if we haven't done so yet, and going forward, so that every single thing in our life is not just aligned, but speaks directly to our highest values. So that if someone asks you to be a part of something or write something or say something, all you have to do is ask yourself if it aligns with who you are and what you want to put out there as Trevor or as Lee. And if it doesn't, then no. Because what happens a lot of the time is we find ourselves being so ambiguous, and people don't really know what to look for when they think about you. Oh, I think she speaks about unlearning, but every now and again she'll do this and that. And it just is not clear. So that was a groundbreaking thing for me. So I'm going to speak about 2 of my highest values in this short conversation now, and then maybe just give a little bit I wanted to just land some tips at the end that people can start to practicalize. So those 2 highest values for me, and you may know this already, are teaching and learning. And these are things that I've valued for the longest time. And I'll tell you another story, another secret story. Oh, I'm revealing so many secrets. I hope you all don't post this on social media and completely make me look bad. But when I was maybe just a few years old, what I would do was, because I have two brothers, they're twins, I would close them both in our spare room, and I would give them pieces of paper and pens, and I'd say, okay, it's time for us to start learning. And I'd pull out a little blackboard, for the one that the little kids have, and I'd start writing all of these notes. And I'd take all of my exercise books from school, and I would start to teach them the things that I'd learned from school, because they are younger than me. So I thought, hey, why not spread all the education love? The problem was that I was actually teaching them even when they didn't want to. So sometimes they would say, oh, Zanele, we don't want to learn now. Can we just go watch TV? And I'm, no, it's not even break time yet. Maybe at break time, you can all go out and watch TV. So that's when I started to realize that teaching was one of my biggest values. And I can't even hide it. I have conversations where we'll watch a movie. Maybe we're watching a really deep movie and everyone's engrossed in it. The whole family's sitting around watching. And then I'll say, wow, Mom, just press the pause button in the movie. Isn't this such a great analogy for love? And then I'll just go deep and everyone's like, it's not that deep. It's just a cartoon. Why do you have to make it so deep? But because that's just how I come across. And that, for me, teaching is really about finding the nuggets in everything, because I believe that every single thing that we come across, the conversations we have, the people we meet, the problems and challenges that we encounter, Phineas and Ferb, Trevor, I love Phineas and Ferb. The problems we encounter or challenges are all there as lessons. And this is the critical part about lessons, is that we're all actually ideally here for each other. And if in our teaching, or in the value of teaching, we move from that understanding that you and I and everything that we go through only exists to serve the other person at all times, then even the challenging things that have happened to us, like, and earlier we spoke about divorce, which is something that really takes a lot of time for people to be able to get to a stage where they can talk about it. And those types of things, whether they're challenges or even great things, only happen to you so that another person, firstly yourself, obviously, can grow from it. But then the other person, the person next to you who hasn't gone through it, is also present in your circle so that they can grow from that experience along with you. And that systemic kind of approach for me to teaching is just so valuable and allows us to take those experiences into the future and have a completely different perspective. So that's the very first thing. And then the next one is becoming a connector. So teaching really is about connecting, but also about sharing information. And we live in a time now where everyone has become, and I think BJ, you implied this a little earlier, everyone's become me, working to serve myself. I'm the celebrity, I'm the great person, everyone else bow down. And there's no longer this insight that we are only stronger together. If we work together, we can assist each other to actually grow collectively. And so there's this shortage of sharing of resources, sharing of information. If we're sitting in a room, and this is why I love these conversations, where we're sitting in a room and you, oh my goodness, you're in this type of work. Wait a minute, I know someone. Let me connect you. Let me give you a piece of information that I have access to that could potentially help to take your career forward. And that for me is what teaching is about. It's about creating those platforms and sharing who you are. Because, and this is where a lot of people have trouble with this, is that you think, okay, what do I have to share? I mean, look at Ivan, look at Trevor, look at Stella. They've just got such robust careers and they know so much in this field. And this is what I want to say, and what I've always said, is that every student is also a teacher. If you have something to learn, you have something to teach. Because all of us have had experiences of different kinds, and all of us can comprehend and reason. And therefore, you are a teacher. Even if you're not a teacher in a specific subject to that one person, there is someone looking for what you have. And I know people usually use this reference when they're talking about dating, that no, someone's looking for what you have, girl. But I'm talking about it in this setting. Whatever it is that is happening to you, or you are going through right now, there are people that would treasure that information, and that information would save them years and years of trying and getting things wrong. And so teaching really is about understanding that you have something to share, creating the networks to share it, and then carrying on with the process and understanding that it's a two-way street, if you can call it that, where we're consistently helping each other and collaborating. So collaboration is a very big part of teaching. And that was my very first value that I think even today, and when I moved over from being a primary school teacher to now working with corporates and NPOs and NGOs outside of that environment, the teaching carried through because it's something that I've always loved to do, and that's a very big part of me. So it's just a different setting. And when I make a joke, I say that it's different now because the people that I teach don't have snot running down their noses, or they don't have to run to the bathroom every 5 seconds, or they're not swinging on the fan or something like that. Maybe not all the time, but I would hope so, right? So that's teaching. And then the second one is learning, which actually goes hand in hand with teaching. And the important thing about the learning is that, I see some great comments in the chat. The important thing about learning is that, and I want to start here firstly, is that learning needs an attitude of humility. Especially going back to what I said earlier, that we now live in a world where everyone thinks, as much as we want to obviously be experts in our subjects, there always has to be room for humility. Nobody knows everything, they say. And you can't be master of everything because you become master of none. So what we really need to start to foster in our approach to learning is this understanding that you will never know everything. And I think there's humility that comes from that. When you really understand that, hey, and some of us really do have maybe 1 or 2 chips on our shoulders from time to time, that we need someone to nudge you and say, actually, you don't know everything. So open yourself up to that. And this now goes right back to that childlike mindset. That I want to learn. I'm open, I'm adventurous, I'm opening myself up to discovery, consistent discovery, on and on and on. And that's what children are, and that's how children actually work. They trip and they fall and they get right back up. And sometimes adults, and I'd like to hear from you in the chat box if you've ever had this experience, when a child falls over and then everyone says, no, don't look at her or she's going to cry. And then everyone just keeps quiet and then the child gets back up. But then when you, oh, are you okay? Are you hurt? And then they feel, oh, now I have to cry, so that everyone feels sorry for me. So that I've always found really strange, though we do. But that's how children are. They get back up and they're always so keen to learn. And that's the approach you and I need to have. And that's the approach that I've started to have. And I've always had around learning. It's that understanding that I don't know everything and there's still so much to discover. That consistent hunger, and I think BJ spoke about hunger earlier, that consistent hunger to know more, to discover more. And a lot of us now working virtually with our presentations, so many people went, I'm just going to wait until COVID-19 has simmered down, and then I'm going to get back to presenting on stages face to face. And I think if anyone is still waiting for that, then good luck to them, right? Because there wasn't that consistent hunger and that understanding that you won't know everything. And the thing is that it actually serves us to be that way because we're consistently learning. And now this is the next point I wanted to get to with regards to learning that has actually hit me like a pile of bricks, and it has done the same for most of us, is that learning, a very big part of learning rather, is unlearning. Because most of us are piling on all of these great insights and we're learning all of these lovely things that are going to help us progress both in our personal lives and professionally, but we're forgetting that there are things that we've been holding on to for a very long time that are not necessarily serving us, that we may need to unlearn. And I like to use the analogy of the cup that gets filled consistently until there's no more room or capacity in the cup to hold any more, because you've got this stale liquid that's still in the cup that you don't necessarily need. And what we need to pour out. So allow this consistent flow. If you think about that flow of water coming in and water coming out and in, in and out. And that's what you and I need when it comes to learning. And it's that openness to learning. And I know I've seen a quote once that says, if something changes after you're 35, it seems like, okay, it's a change, let's move into it. But if something changes after you're about 40, 50, 60, it's like the whole world is just flipped on its head. But that is only the case because that attitude to learning wasn't embedded in the very first place, because you weren't childlike in your approach to learning. And that for me is something that I've had to learn, I've had to consistently work at. And that's the other thing. It's consistent. It has to be intentional. Now, moving into unlearning and those tips that I spoke about a little earlier, it has to be conscious. It has to be intentional. It doesn't work any other way. I heard a quote once that says, it doesn't work unless you work it, or it only works if you work it. So many of us sit back, we apply all of these great principles, and then we sit back and we go, okay, now let's see, where's the magic? There is no magic. Because unless you get in there and you get yourself dirty, it's not going to work for you. And this leads me directly into what I wanted to share with you. That especially in the journey towards unlearning, and this is in a personal capacity, if you want to unlearn any kinds of habits or mindsets or anything around your personal life, it will only happen if you consciously make an effort. Because this is how your brain works, just in a quick analogy. Think about a forest, a thick forest of trees. It's got trees that have been growing there for a very long time, and they've got their roots nicely dug into the ground. And what you want to do is you want to create a pathway in that forest. You start by removing some of those trees along the pathway you want to travel, let's say from A to B. Now, that's not going to be easy initially, because there are trees there that have been there for a long time. Those roots are well dug into the ground, and it's going to need you to be consistent. So you take those trees off, and then the path starts off a little bumpy. And then you start to work the roots out, and then it's a little smoother, and then you tar that path out. But over time, that's what happens. Now, the problem with unlearning is that you and I have these tarred paths in our brains, which we can call neural pathways, that have actually been tarred because we're doing these things all the time. And this is what happened with most of us and working in the office. You had this tarred path of driving to work every day, or seeing a certain person at the office, or standing at the coffee machine and gossiping, whatever it was that was just tarred into your brain, and you'd done it almost automatically. And now what we're trying to do is, we've got this tarred path, but we're trying to create this brand new path on the side. And we're wondering, oh my goodness, why is it not working? Why do I feel like I'm stuck in an absolute rut and everything is completely out of control? I'm just looking at your comment there, Trevor. Everything is completely out of control. It's because we've always done things a certain way, and now we all of a sudden want to change how it is. And that's why I say it needs to be conscious. We need to actually consciously unlearn the graveled out path and move into a path that's brand new, and then do what we call pruning of that old process. Now, I want to just give 3 little tips that I have applied that I think will really assist all of us in the room with unlearning in a personal capacity. They work for teams, and I use them with my clients' teams as well, but I just want us to apply them. There we go. I have to move around here. There we go. I want us to just apply them in our personal capacity for today. And the very first one is a live vision. And this for me has done wonders. And I want to use it in the context of when I was studying for, it usually works quite well with educational goals, but any kind of goal that you have, it's important that in unlearning or learning or unlearning to learn, it's important that whatever vision you have before you is clear and it's alive. And when I say alive, it means it needs to resonate with you. How many times, and I want just a show of hands from those of us I can see on the screen, how many times have you chosen to change a behavior or change the way you've done things, and then it's gone completely flat? And after a few years, you're just gone, whatever happened? Didn't I say I was going to stop doing this? But here I am doing that thing that I thought I was going to stop doing, right? And this is where the live vision comes in. About 70% of change processes or initiatives in businesses fall flat on their faces. Like with the change initiatives we try in our own lives, completely fail on us, is because the vision doesn't resonate deeply enough with us. We don't exactly understand what it means. What does it mean to let go of those things? Think about something that you're trying to quit, like coffee. If someone says, all right, quit coffee, I'll see you in the next 21 days, because that's how long it takes to change a habit. I'll see you in the next 21 days. Let's see if you can quit coffee. Without really understanding what that means to you. And this ties in so beautifully with the values we spoke about a little earlier, because everything that we do is tied into the value that it has for us. And I want you now, as you think of anything in your own life, and I do this with actually everything, every behavior change that I want to apply in my life, is to look at what value it has for you. Why do you do it? Because they say each habit or consistent behavior is actually made out of three things. It's the cue, or the trigger, you can call it the cue or the trigger. It's the behavior itself. And then lastly, it's the reward. Because whether it's a chemical reward or it's a physically manifested reward, you're getting something from that habit. You're getting something from that behavior or whatever it is that you're doing. So start to look at that. And that's why I say that if there's anything that needs to be unlearned with us as individuals, it needs to start with understanding that vision. Does the vision of changing it actually call something from your spirit, call something from deep inside you, because you understand why you need to change? And unfortunately, this is where a lot of organizations miss the mark. We expect certain individuals or the entire team to completely flip over when we don't understand that Sipho or George is sitting in the corner going, why? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense for me. And so when I say live, I mean it needs to make sense. It needs to resonate. And then you need to see it as well. Live is in like alive, like someone can see it and it makes sense to them. And this is why leadership plays a very big role. Think about someone in your own life that is exhibiting that unlearning or that new habit or whatever it is that you wish to work towards or to manifest. The second one, I don't want to spend too much time on these tips, but just move back a little back into my journey. The next one is easy chunks. And this is one of my favorites. When something is absolutely huge and you go, okay, so I want to be 10 kilograms lighter, kgs lighter by the end of the week. Woohoo, I can do it. And then you go, okay, why is it not working? And you start to panic. The second one is one of the biggest reasons why with weight goals, you and I, or whoever else has got one of these, absolutely falls on their face. It's because it needs to be split up into little manageable chunks that make sense for you. And this is what I always apply. When I work with clients, when I work in my own personal life, how can I split this big, hairy, audacious goal into little manageable chunks that make sense? So that every now and again, and I'm going to speak about, actually, let me just link it up. So that every now and again, I can do the third step. I can acknowledge. I can acknowledge that I've made that progress. And this is the important thing. When you've 1 million little chunks, yes. And when I've broken it up into those little chunks, it allows me to consistently celebrate myself. It allows me to consistently acknowledge how far I've come and that I'm making progress. Guys, you and I are demotivated because we believe we're not making progress so often. And if you can find a way to reward yourself and be good to yourself, you need to make that excuse. So at every little interval, you've reached stage 1 and it went well. Yay, let's buy some cake and some KFC or whatever you enjoy, and let's celebrate. Let's have a good time. So that as I go on, I understand that I'm a progressing part of this change or this habit or this process. And then the very last one is partaking or being a part of something. From when we were in our primal days, you and I put great value, or human beings rather put great value in being a part of something. And being a part of something means so much to us that you and I consistently act as something we are not, because we just want to be a part of something. We will put on a facade. We will pretend that we like sports, or we'll pretend that we actually ski during the winter, just because we want to belong, just because we want to be a part of something. And now this is not necessarily a bad thing, because it's obviously there for our survival, right? Now, it's a very important part as well in unlearning and actually changing your habits, or moving into a place of changing in identity, is being a part of something bigger than yourself. And they always say, and this is a quote that I've loved for a very long time, is life is meaningful when you, I need to just get it right, when you find something to give yourself, when you own something, you find something to make yours. But I'm paraphrasing now. When you find something to make yours, but it's even more significant when you find something to give yourself to give your entire self to, that almost overarches who you are, and a cause that's bigger than yourself. And I want to just end that there, that for me, as much as my 26-year-old wisdom goes, that for me is the one thing that still held the truest for the longest time, is to give yourself to a cause that's bigger than you, that's bigger than yourself, that is a big, hairy, audacious cause or goal that is a lot more than you can ever achieve in your lifetime, but that gives your life so much meaning. And with everything that is so plastic, and everything that is so loud, and everything that's so overwhelming in the world that we currently live in, that has unprecedented change and absolutely unparalleled innovation, one of the biggest things that make business worthwhile, that make living personally worthwhile, is when there is something out there that is driving you, that is a big driver in what you do, in how you give of yourself, and just makes your life so much more rich and enriches who you are and what you do and where you're going. And I absolutely am of the view now, as I end off, that part of learning is being open to things changing. And I think I did imply this. So whether today you believe that it's really important to wear something or to do something a certain way, understand that it may not always be the case. So today I believe that it's important to give yourself holistically to a cause. If you nudge me again in a year's time, maybe not. But this is the thing. And my sister said something very profound the other day, that it needs to be okay that things are not always going to be that way. And I think for me, that is the starting point. Because you and I are so human in that we hold on to the way that things have always been. But there is wisdom in understanding that things won't always be the same. They say that the good news is that nothing ever changes. I mean, nothing lasts forever. And the bad news is that nothing lasts forever. So it's both the good news and the bad news. And you and I have to take that. And it's all about our approach to that good and bad news at the same time, that makes all of the difference in how prosperous we are business-wise, and how much of an impact we make in people's lives, and how enriching our personal lives are, even in the noise that exists in today's world. So that's me. I want to leave maybe a few minutes for questions. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thanks, Zanele. Now everybody knows exactly why we put you on the graveyard shift. That half an hour just disappeared. I think you're a magician or a time traveler or something. I'm not too sure, but the energy and the spark that you bring just makes the time fly past. So thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. Yeah, and a good old cynic friend of mine once said, you know, nothing keeps on changing. So work that one out. So I mean, that's yeah. So yeah, it's a fascinating topic, and I absolutely love this idea of how we unlearn and relearn and develop ourselves through time, and so I really enjoyed that. Thank you so much. Right. Who would like to make some comments, some thoughts, some inputs on what Zanele's just presented to us? Trevor, Phineas and Ferb, come on. Edward, yeah, Edward will come across to you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, if I'd had a primary teacher like this, I might not have spent 3 years trying to get out of matric. That would have helped in a big way. But Zanele, you know what? I really want people to understand at 26 years of age, you've got the world at your feet, clearly. And that you've been taken up by an operation that has a worldwide, global reputation, an organization called Today, Tomorrow. You better just, Graham Connery, tell us about this organization and why you were taken up, what it is that you are going to be doing with them over the next 3, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. And on top of that, I want you to be aware all the time that in the next 60 days, we're going to be going out to bring in 1,000 companies into another project and a venture. And I want us to tie this together about how we collaborate in forums like this. So I'm giving you license to share with us your global path in the near future, medium term and long term as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Trevor. So I'll just spend a little bit of time here. So Tomorrow Today Global is an organization of a team of futurists, ideally. So individuals that track future trends, we track business trends that are actually shaping the future of different industries across the globe. And we work with organizations, we work with individuals, and we work with various teams across different industries just to help them understand what those trends are going to mean for their businesses, and not just understand, but what they can do about it. So what now? Now that you understand that disruption doesn't just come in technology form, but there are non-tech disruptors as well, which is what so many of us didn't quite understand until COVID-19 came along. And we went, oh my goodness, I thought tech was the only thing that could disrupt my business. But disruptors come in many forms. And so this is what the job of Tomorrow Today is. It's scenario planning, helping organizations to plan scenarios and understand what their possible futures look like and how they could take advantage of each of those futures. And so my role within the Tomorrow Today team is literally as the unlearning expert, or as I've recently started to call myself. I see Benjamin as the culture guy. I've recently started to call myself, because it was received quite well on LinkedIn, the unlearning lady, because I used to have the big hair and people, oh, where's the unlearning lady? I'm like, it's me. I'm still, yeah. Anyway, because I had that big hair and then it was gone and then everyone went, whoa, what happened? So the unlearning lady, and basically what that means is that I help organizations to self-disrupt. That if you are getting disrupted, your best response or your best bet is to disrupt yourself. Take that disruption by the hand and have it happen to you intentionally, but don't just have it as a once-off thing. So unlearning is a continuous self-disruption process. And since you've nudged me, Trevor, I'm actually going to just, on the 27th, I haven't even started marketing this, but on the 27th of next month, I'm having a small gathering, or just a short course that I'm doing for a few of my clients, and I've opened it up. Unfortunately, I only have limited space because I want it to be an interactive unlearning workshop for a few of my clients. And we're going to be working with interactive exercises and understanding what it means to unlearn. What happens to businesses that don't unlearn for transitions, and what happens to those who do? And then how you can take it back to your team, take these exercises, these principles back to your team to start to make them valuable for you. So it's primarily for R&D, HR, learning and development leaders, but just general leaders as well, that want to start to engineer this continuous development into their team. So I'm quite excited about this segment, and it's sort of a Tomorrow Today, doing a woman appreciation, because unfortunately at the moment I am the only woman as a part of the Tomorrow Today consulting or Tomorrow Today team. So Yay me. So this is something that I am excited to invite all of you to, and absolutely looking forward to having great conversations. Yes, Trevor, please feel free to do so. And so it's still, at the moment, it is still a little hush hush. I'll confirm with you next week, all of those details and how people can get on. So still in the planning phases, but really looking forward to it. And this is what I do. I bring in a lot of my primary school teacher techniques, because I find that you and I have a child within us, the child that wants to learn, the child that wants to explore. And so I have all of these puzzles and these ambiguous exercises that I bring in that make people go, oh my goodness, why can't I figure this out? And I do that because I want to introduce the discomfort that comes with unlearning. The reason why companies are not changing, or you and I are not changing, is because when we get to that discomfort phase, we sort of just roll out and we go, oh, it's uncomfortable. I don't do this. Why is it so uncomfortable? And then we move out of it. So it's to say, make the discomfort your friend. Be okay with it. Let it challenge you. Let it change you. And then get onto the other side. Hold on to something that's bigger than yourself, where you want to be. Thanks for that, Trevor.
Fantastic. Thanks, Zanele. Right, let's go across to the youngster in the group. So Edward, you wanted to ask the nursery school teacher something. So.
Yeah, thanks for that, Zanele. I mean, 26, what are you going to be like when you reach my age of 66? You're going to have changed the world. The world will be a completely different place by then. I just also want to congratulate both, well, the organisers, because we started with Sally talking about the corporates need to change the way they think, and now we're talking about unlearning. And I thought that was quite a nice circle we've kind of come around in. But the thing that fascinates me is that children are very creative. And then by the time they leave school, they're not. What do we do to them to knock all that out of them?
Edward, my goodness, you've just spoken. And if you go to my YouTube channel, I've actually done a few webinars on this topic. Unfortunately, and the reality that most of us in the room are aware of, is that our education systems globally, and this is not just in South Africa, it's not just in the UK, it's everywhere, are not doing justice by our children. Firstly, future skills. And this speaks directly to what you said, Trevor. If we look at future skills of resilience and creativity, those are things that children, like you said, come in with. And I mentioned this in the very first webinar we had, they're born that way. But because they come into a system that expects all of them to fall into a certain box, that if you can't get that A is the answer, then you won't make it in the system. So what ends up happening is that our children believe that they are not good enough to prosper in our world. But what they end up finding out outside is that those very skills that we beat out of you are the skills that you now need. That's why leading organizations like your Googles will have ball pits in the company or in the office just to get the individuals in the company to jump around like children. Because unfortunately, that was beaten out of them at one stage. And you make such a valid point. And this is what I always advise my clients in the education field, that if you can focus on future skills, I'm not saying completely scrap the curriculum, which I might say, but I'm not saying it. But if you can focus on future skills, and future skills are actually children's skills. If you look at resilience, creativity, inquisitiveness, and just hone those skills, your child is better positioned to be an innovator and a creative and an inventor in the world that we're going into, rather than a child who has completely aced all of their subjects. And I say this obviously with a little bit of salt, but they're better positioned than a child who's gone straight A and completely aced everything and been put in this box so well that they struggle to come out of it. Great observation, Trevor. Love it.
Trevor says it wasn't him, it was Edward. So yeah.
Oh, thanks, Edward.
No, not a problem. Yeah, Lee, let's come across to you.
Zanele, I've only just met you and I feel like what a breath of fresh air and dynamite and wisdom. You're just the whole package. So thank you so much for keeping us on track and really giving us real food for thought. So really, really appreciate your wisdom, your storytelling, and the importance. And I really want to emphasize the importance of what you are sharing, because it really is the future of where we need to go, isn't it? This being unlocked from our the previous dispensation that's sitting in our heads. And I just, as you were talking, just this last little, as you were sharing, answering Edward's question, it reminded me of myself, because I was definitely the good kid. You know, if the teacher said this, I did this. And if they wanted it done in these rows, I did it in these rows. I colored in the lines, and that meant that I got all the A's and I got all the prizes, and you know, I was head girl of the school, and I ticked all those boxes so well that when I stepped into the real world and realized it had nothing to do with following the rules, being, you know, doing what somebody else told you to do, I had to think for myself. There was so much unlearning I had to do. And now I urgently, you know, I will tell anybody anytime, you know, don't worry that your kid's not doing everything they're supposed to do at school. It'll be so much more helpful for them afterwards. But that's just by way of a personal story. What I actually wanted to do was to ask a question around, as you're working with companies, and are you seeing trends around things that they are generally things that people need to unlearn? So yes, there may be these future skills, but are you seeing, or as you're working with companies, you're saying, okay, this is coming up over and over again as consistently things that companies need to unlearn. Can you just share around that?
Sure, no problem. So there are a good few things, and some of them may be in more of the intricacies of how the organization is run. But one of the more overlying ones, I would say, is the balance between engagement and results, or any kind of involvement and results, or the human element, rather than, let me call it, and results. And most organizations, especially that I've worked with, rather let me speak from there, are really struggling to understand not only how the two work with each other, but also which is supposed to almost trump the other at any given time. And we're seeing a lot of that now during COVID time, where it's how much really should we be understanding that results and all of our bottom line goals may need to just, I'm not saying completely stop, but may need to sort of move a little to the side for the human element. Is everyone doing okay at the moment? How are you taking this? What can the organization do better to serve you at this time? So it's that consistent balance at any given time, whether it's when we're putting out new products or launching a product line. Where really are we missing the mark when it comes to how we look after our people and understand how our people are responding to changes, and then what we want to achieve in terms of all of our numbers? And that for me is the biggest thing that we're needing to unlearn, because unfortunately at the moment, this is kind of where we are. And we find that we start to produce a workforce of individuals that are completely drained, that hate their jobs, and don't really understand what they're doing. So, and what comes from that as well is this organization that I work for, and now with millennials, we're seeing this a lot, where they value organizations that value their people, that value societal issues. And when Nike did that entire campaign where they stood with an artist or they stood with an individual and started to proclaim their standing on a social topic, you either burnt your Nikes or you bought more. And what we saw was that there was that peak in the support for the organization. And people started to say, I want to be associated with an organization that understands that engagement and the human factor really make all of the difference. And then it's that balance. So obviously we don't necessarily want to see that, but we want to see that both are really being prioritized equally, not one in the place of other, or as a sacrificing our people on the altar just so that we can get all of the results and the targets that we want to sort of get. I think that's the biggest one for me at this stage. I might have over answered that.
No, I'll be honest with you. I've got another couple of questions I could ask, but
email me. Let me put my.
It'll have to wait. Thank you so much for stimulating great conversation.
Can everyone see that? If you're not on speaker view on your view of Zoom, just put onto speaker view, and then you'll be able to see Zanele's details. But I've also put a YouTube channel in the chat box as well, and you can connect to her through us if you can't pick up those details.
Thanks,
we'll
Ivan.
definitely put you on. Master, yes, let's come across to you.
Yes, Zanele was also a primary school teacher at some point of my life. And, you know, the sort of kind of philosophy of unlearning that we are talking about, I always said to my friends who are still teachers today, I said to them that they have a subject called career guidance, and I don't think they're better placed to advise anybody about career choices, because the life out there dictates something else other than what your physical science and maths leads you to be an engineer, or economics and accounting leading you to be an accountant or something like that. But there is so much that we leave behind, issues of resilience, issues of creativity. And I think you'll agree with me if you've gone to a traditional township school, that there are things called streams, you know, that you follow this particular stream, then you'll follow this particular kind of a career. And, you know, the more I advise, because one of the things that I do is to advise young people on careers. Some would end up with a career that they never thought they will flourish in. And it is maybe part of the unlearning. I just did not have the right terminology. And thanks to wisdoms that today I know that there is a lot of unlearning that is taking place. And even from a social point of view, the way we live, there are some of the things, like you correctly said, I mean, people can learn from me what the whole subject of divorce, we only talk about it when we want to make people or ensure that people do not get into it. But we do not have a proactive way of teaching people about it before they fall into it or something like that. So that those can be some of the subjects, the unlearning subjects that we need to take people through, or learning subjects that they have to teach people about our experience, what the impact is, and how best do you still remain within your life vision, even if you are out of that spectrum. So yeah, thank you very much. And it's amazing, 26 years, or was that a joke?
Do I look older? Is that what's going on here?
No, the brains are just not compatible to the amount of wisdom that you shared. Yeah, I really am fascinated, and I don't regret every little minute that I've spent here. I mean, from the first person up to now, I really, and I think, I don't know, whoever put down the program was quite brilliant. It was more a social part, and then came the, what is that, the frog part, where digital and all those things, and now it's becoming more social again. So we are closing on a very high note. Thanks, Evan, and everybody else, I think, who put this program together.
Great, thanks, Master. Yeah, it was Trevor's extreme expertise that put us all together. You know, fire out a bunch of emails and see who pitches up. You know, it was that was really, really well organized and structured, and thanks to Trevor for all of that. So we appreciate that as well. So, Right. I think what I'd like to do, if everyone's okay with it, I'm just going to pop around the room quickly just for a thought from everybody. I mean, some folks have been sitting quietly here all day listening in and maybe haven't had a chance to make a comment and give some input. So I'd just love to hear from those of you who haven't commented during the course of the day, your thoughts on what you've heard during the day and the sessions you've managed to attend. And yeah, then we'll wrap it up after that. So Stella, can I get across to you first? Stella, are you with us? No?
Yes, sorry, I've just got my technical guy here sorting out my printer. Oh, Zanele, thank you so much. That was yet again a brilliant talk and you had me captivating the same as the previous time. Thank you so much for Ivan, Lee, Trevor for arranging today. It was such an entertaining and learning experience for me. I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
Great. Thanks, Stella. Tabisa, you've been with us, I think, most of the day. Are you there? Are you able to unmute yourself and say hi and just give us your thoughts on what you've experienced today? Tabisa, no? You're not able to unmute? If you are, just unmute and I'll keep an eye out for it and come back to you. Tim, you've also been with us, I think, most of the day. So your thoughts as a first timer into this and what you've experienced today.
I have learned absolutely nothing. I'm invoicing each and every single one of you. I know where you work. I'll be sending you this invoice momentarily. Okay. Heads will roll. I'm joking, guys. It's amazing. I mean, where I am now. I think everything is coming full circle on my side. I grew up in a little town called Orkney. I don't know. Some of you would know it. So I learned quite a lot. I mean, from my background, computer systems engineering, that touched on that. And project management as well. Well, a whole lot from project management. And I think we are officially in the 4IR, where we need to apply agile project management methodologies in order to deliver predictable results, I think, in everything that we touch. So yeah, quite a lot to take in, but definitely worth it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. So we'll send you our invoice in that case.
As I run away.
Great stuff. Well, I'm glad you could spend the day with us. That was great. So Kevin, let's get across to you next. Kevin, are you with us? You're still busy with your tenders. Okay, doesn't look like maybe Kevin's online at the moment. Right, Dawn, let's get across to you.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I've had challenges with my fiber since Wednesday and we're still not resolved. But yeah, it's been an amazing journey. Lee, Trevor and Ivan, well done on your summit. Very exciting, a lot to learn. Right from the beginning with Sally Anderson was phenomenal, and the ones that I managed to see were great. And of course, Zanele ending on a high. She's such an inspiration. And at 26, Zanele, you've got the world at your feet. Wow. I wish at 26 I had the knowledge you have just to impart and make the world a better place. So this has really been enjoyable. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much, Dawn. Pepe, yes, come across to you.
Hi, yes, good afternoon. Thanks so much. It's been a really wonderful day. I'm sorry I couldn't attend all the sessions, but I think I got at least one or two gems from each speaker, from each session that I did attend. And always, you know, we always say that we need to continually be learning, but I really, really like what Zanele said about unlearning, because you've got to free up your mind. You've got to make space in your mind for the new stuff, and you've got to get rid of the stinking thinking, as Sally said at the beginning of the day. So really, it's been wonderful being with you. Nice to see you again, Lee. And yeah, I'll try and pop in one day next week. Thanks very much.
Super, thanks, Pip. Yeah, we look forward to seeing any and all of you on our Wisdom's chat sessions in the morning from 8 o'clock onwards on the weekday morning. So you're all welcome to join those as well. So Cecile, I know you didn't have a mic earlier. I don't know if you're on your system with a microphone now. If you have the ability to unmic and add a few thoughts in, we'd like to hear from you. No, perhaps not. Okay, Donovan, are you there with us?
Yes, I'm here. Hope you can hear me.
Oh, yeah, very faint, Donovan.
Okay, I'm going to try and speak a bit louder.
That's better.
Yes, I've tried my best to, catch all the sessions. I've learned quite a lot, and I can't wait to listen to some of the recordings. And as I said, there was a lot of information that I picked up. I definitely need to sit down and make some notes when I go through the recordings. Thank you very much for all the organizers. Thank you.
Great, thanks, thanks, Donovan. Right, Trevor Kettler, you there? Trevor Kettler, are you with us? Yes, no? Okay, it doesn't look like Trevor's online either. So I'm going to pop across to Benjamin, and I think then we'll wrap up. So Benjamin, just you spent the whole day with us. I'm appreciative and impressed that you've hung in the entire day. But thanks for being with us.
Oh, it's been fantastic. There's been so much all day. It's going to take me a week to process most of it. It's been fantastic. It's such a good day. The quality of the kind of learning you've brought together, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Super, thanks Ben, and your part in that was superb as well. So I really enjoyed it. So thank you for your time and input on that, and your input in other sessions as well. Your comments and insights, really appreciated. Right, I think Trevor, maybe just a wrap-up comment from your side, and then I'll hand back to Lee to close off.
Look, no words can actually describe what we experienced today. I just want to give a shout out to all the speakers. Ben still on board here, and Zanele, who else is still on board? Just to say thank you for the quality of input you've put in. This is just the beginning, because from here, everything has been recorded for posterity. And we're going to make certain that people get to these links on a daily basis. And it's, as I say, it's just the springboard into what we're going to do to reach global markets. So thanks very much for all of your contributions.
Super, thanks, Trevor. And Lee, over to you.
It's just, I started the day by saying, well, we don't know. We launched, it's this, fire, aim, ready, and look what was actually created and built. And it just confirms for me over and over again that when you gather a group of people together to bring their wisdom, each one of us has this slice of knowledge and wisdom and expertise that is true and real and good for us. And you create a place of sharing that sparks the learning, the unlearning for each one of us in different ways, because it's this, I often think of it as a kaleidoscope or the disco ball that, each person has their little square. And when you hone in on that squared, it shines in its own particular way. But when you put all those squares together, and then it creates this moving, shining ball that reflects all this incredible light and goodness. And that's, I know, and as Trevor says, this is just, we just only seeing one small part of this ball, and it's just going to keep going, building and building, and we're going to see more parts of it as we grow. And so thank you, yes, adding to Trevor's appreciation to the speakers for your time, your effort, your focus that and your contribution. And then everybody who participated with us, listening, maybe on the sidelines, sharing questions, sharing comments, and this will also now multiply as we continue to share this. And that's the beauty of social media. It's the beauty of the digital platforms, that nothing, it keeps multiplying and growing. So that's from me. I invite everybody to continue the journey. Zanele is the unlearning lady. We are the lifelong learning university of life. And so we believe in learning forever. And we look forward to continuing that journey with you in an ongoing way.